Hello, my name is Chris Leach. I'm here for DevelopmentWA and I'm speaking with the artists responsible for the Here Together project at the 1909 precinct at Subi East. We're talking today with Abdul Abdullah and Dave MOMO. Guys, welcome.
G'day. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We've got a mural specialist from San Francisco and a Perth-born multidiscipline artist living in Sydney. How did you guys come to team up?
It was actually Creative Road that put us together. They had worked with MOMO before and we'd spoken before, and they thought curatorially would be a good match and aligned with the project.
That's it, yeah.
So this is the first time collaboration for you? Both?
Yeah, first time with us too, yeah.
This is the first time that we've met face to face, actually.
Just now.
No.
yeah, we've talked.
The miracle of Zoom, yeah, we've been collaborating from other sides, the world there.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, what's the experience been like building this project together, but without actually meeting face to face?
Pretty smooth, I'd say. Yeah. The idea, I think, was from the beginning that I would do a colorful painting on the underside, and then Abdul would create this drawing on top of that. That's the sculptural illuminated portion of the artwork. So where those intersected is all the times we were meeting and trying to hash it out, but the concept was pretty strong.
Fantastic. Look, before we dive too much into the project itself, which we will in a moment, I want to find out a bit more about each of you. Momo, why are you referred to as MOMO?
Oh, it's just a nickname, from when I was a kid, and it sounds really silly, but I got stuck with that, when the hobby or fun stuff turned into a career, just became the name I'm using.
Fantastic. What did you know about Perth before you became involved in this project?
I've heard that it's a very remote location, and I'd been fascinated. I've been to Australia 3 times before working and just heard about people traveling here or working or doing things. It just seemed exciting. I love to travel, so it seemed like an exotic, distant point in an exotic, part of the world.
Have you only been in Perth since you've been here, or have you managed to travel around?
Just Perth. Yeah, I've been really focused on the project and just been around Subi, resting up, working, resting, working.
Yep. Abdul, Princess Margaret Hospital was obviously a big part of the Perth landscape for decades. Did you have any personal connection to it as a child?
The closest I got to it was spending a lot of time in Kings Park, but growing up in East Cannington, Bentley was my hospital, and the furthest east of a hospital I went to was Royal Perth when I hurt my hand when I was a pizza delivery boy. So yeah, that's
pizza delivery.
Yeah.
How do you hurt your hand pizza delivering?
I had a fight with an oven, and the oven won.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. How about the rest of your family? Was there any sort of family connection at all with PMH while it was here?
Not strictly PMH, but with the area, with Subiaco. One of my first exhibitions was on Hay Street in Subiaco, and mostly through the art scene here in Perth, was floating around that area.
Yep. So obviously you were aware of PMH's reputation and its history and its legacy. Did that add any pressure to you when you were helping to transform some of these structures?
Yeah, something like that. That's been so much of the fabric of Western Australia and Perth specifically. There is a bit of pressure. Like you're in some ways you're taking on that lineage and you got to take care of it. So there was a bit of responsibility.
Yep.
I've met some people with sweet stories, from their childhoods going there, and that's added some sense of responsibility.
Yeah, some of the children who are now growing up, or
yeah, like just some folks I've been able to hang out with and talk with and stuff. They have stories like one was the youngest CAT scan ever to happen at the hospital. So
Wow.
Big memories, yeah.
And that's fascinating. That experience, does that influence what you do or how you think about your artwork, or was that sort of past the point?
Not mine personally. I think the Lollipop radio was a jumping off point in making the smokestack feel kid friendly, in some ways, like optimistic and upbeat. But it just adds a extra sense of gravitas for we really are painting this for the whole community that's around us, and a lot of those have history with it.
Excellent. Momo, you started working on murals and outdoor projects around the late 1990s.
Yeah.
What was it about using walls and structures as a canvas that first grabbed you?
I was one that didn't have a studio. I loved to travel, and when people showed me that you could just paint on walls and it functioned immediately for an audience, that really clicked for me and worked for decades after. I eventually got a studio as I could, but the idea that you could paint for the public and it would be doing something the same day was always winning. Had me.
Did you have a mentor or an artist you looked up to in sort of your formative years?
My youngest years, my uncle was a really cool artist, and that was a great influence. And then just other people that were painting outdoors, in on the authorized areas. That was the big inspiration.
Yeah, Abdul, how about you? What are some of your influences as an artist? Any mentors?
Oh, both my brothers went to art school before me, so they've always been mentors. But in terms of artists out there in the world, in Australia, people like Tracy Moffat and Richard Bell, and then internationally, especially with painting, an artist like Jenny Saville has been a huge influence on the way that I paint.
Fantastic. Your family connection to paint, is it all painting, or do you all use different mediums?
Oh, my oldest brother painted when he paints, but Abdul Rahman, who works as a professional artist, he mainly does sculpture, and every time he picks up a brush, I give him a bit of a warning. Yeah, stay away.
Fantastic. Any other mentors, or is it just mainly your family connections that moved you into an arts path?
Family connections, and then meeting some really wonderful lecturers when I started to study. So I studied journalism before studying art, and I picked up an elective in art at Curtin University, and I went down that path, and it was lecturers like John Teschendorf and Ben Joel who convinced me at that early stage that it was a worthwhile decision for me to jump over and to commit myself to it.
Was there a project or a moment where where the light bulb came on for you?
I mean, there's a funny one. I don't know if it's necessarily a great anecdote, but at the end of each semester, you have a crit. So in a crit, especially in painting classes, you'd have all your paintings on the wall, and the lecturers and the student cohort will critique you and judge you, and it can be quite a harrowing experience. But before my crit, I was feeling pretty hungry, so I went to a vending machine and I got a crunch bar, but it's the end of the year, it's summer, and it's really hot, and the crunch bar had come out melted, so I wasn't going to eat it, and I just chucked it on a table in front of the paintings. And when the crit started, my lecturer spent 10 minutes talking about the crunch bar. They wondered how I'd made it, what I'd injected it with, and I just kept my mouth shut and got a high distinction. So I thought this is something that really suited my sensibilities.
That is a fascinating story. Dave, was there a light bulb moment for you when you were dabbling with the arts?
Well, I don't have one that compares to that. That's pretty fantastic. I just always enjoyed making artwork, I guess, like a lot of kids do, but they phase out of it, and I just kind of stuck with it. Maybe due to that uncle that I viewed as a mentor as an adult that managed to find some way to keep doing that. So it was pretty steady. The whole thing's been pretty steady.
Excellent.
Yeah.
As artists, this is one for both of you. What's your most important tool? What do you never leave home without?
Well, we were talking about this before. You go first.
Tough question. I think your answer is the best. I'm just going to have to borrow it.
Okay, go ahead.
Abdul mentioned the phone. At this point, we're using our phones quite a bit for everything. Yeah. I am using my phone in all sorts of ways for making artwork and keeping notes and inspiration. And everyone is, but that's significant.
Snapping photos along the way, just jotting down notes, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. I jot down a lot of notes. I used to carry like a little sketchbook, or a notepad you could stuff in your pocket, and I was always writing down things there, like weird ideas, and getting back to them. But the phone's taken over that role. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I spend half the time in the studio doing admin, and most of that is on my phone. On phone calls, emails, that sort of thing. That's my portal to the world, especially when I'm in my studio and there's I need one. I need a portal to outside and come through the phone.
Yeah, okay. Abdul, most of your work is as a portrait painter is really well known. You've been a finalist multiple times in the Archibald Prize. Is this your first commission to paint murals?
Yeah. But I'm not doing any of the painting. I have to stress.
Yep. Okay.
yeah. That mural is that amazing mural is David's. But it's the first time that I'm working like this and at this particular scale. I'm working on some concurrent public art projects around Australia, one in Sydney and one in Melbourne. But this is the first one that's going to be up and see the light of day.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk a bit about the project now, which is called Here Together. So, what were you involved in terms of the project, if not for the painting?
Oh, so my element that I'm contributing to the collaboration is a lighting element. These smiley faces and hands, these really what I hope to be joyous expressions on the outside of the smokestack that will welcome people to the space. And for me, what's really important is they're not just happy creatures or happy sprites or anything like that, but they're happy to see you. And I wanted it to be quite a welcoming exchange.
Given the history of the hospital, it was really important, I guess, to tell those good stories to make people feel good about the legacy that it's left.
Yeah, absolutely. Like people have, there are some really hard stories about hospitals, but there's a whole lot of good stories, and so many people's lives are vastly improved. There's so many children being born. There's so many, really wonderful things that happen out of hospitals, and so many good stories. And I wanted to reflect that in the work.
Yep. Dave, tell us about the painting element.
Well, it wraps around facing all directions. That's a new one for me that I think is kind of interesting. First mural that's like, beaming out to the city and on all sides. It's typical for me in that I have like a vocabulary of colors and shapes that are swimming together with like a halftone type technique that I've developed, which creates a third color from two when seen at a distance. And when you're up close, those colors are then separated and not blended in your eyes, but sort of shimmering. And I think it rewards the viewer for when, you've come close, you see something else, and from a distance, it's has this optical blended effect. So all those things are there, and that's the type of work I've been developing for a long time. And that's really it. My challenge was in seeing how those shapes would look good distorted around the shape of this very narrow smokestack, so they would still have make an impression given the narrow viewing parameter. It's kind of a unique one. It's been pretty fun.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the challenges? Did you start practicing on sort of circular objects at home, or how are you sort of facing those challenges?
Yeah, I designed everything flat, but then I kept printing it out and bending it, getting the paper to come around in a cylinder. And so what you end up with is that there's no straight lines. If you design a straight line, it's now bent in space, right? Or you're going to see it from every direction bent in a new way. And all those things are actually kind of a boon. They're doing a lot of... they're creating something for you, I think, after the fact. So it was just trying to work with that and think of how you have so many different sight lines, like important places you'll be potentially seeing this from, and you don't want to leave like a deadened area, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yep. And can you tell me a bit more about the new technique you were talking with to melding the colors together? Was that right?
Oh, yeah. And I just gave a workshop on that with a bunch of people. I got interested in something called practical geometry, which is a means that like tradespeople will have techniques on site to measure or find midpoints, parallel lines, perpendicular things, angles and so forth, oftentimes without using numbers. It's a physical way of measuring and doing maths. And from there, I thought of ways that I could measure the art making, the mark making on a painting, and then that got kind of optical. If you have like a really perfectly dispersed group of lines or whatever, you've created like a halftone that blends optically. It blends at a distance. So just like in printed material or something, the separated like primary colors make secondary ones. So that became interesting. So what I'm been doing as a result of those interests is like a pattern roller that is measured so that from most distances you'll have this like transparent color that's occurring as a result of the sort of primary colors all interacting on the surface.
Fascinating. Who knew there was so much maths involved?
Yeah, well, I didn't. I mean, the whole practical geometry thing is quite cool too, because you're oftentimes on a like job site. This is being reconstructed and rehabilitated, and you feel, or I feel like the mural is some sort of like, heavyweight like construction level project, right? You're using the big equipment and going large scale with it. It feels appropriate in some ways. It makes sense to borrow those same skills that tradies are using, and they're time tested. A lot of them are being lost because we are using technology in place of things, and muralists are often using projectors, which is great. I use them also. But with that comes like a different level of benefits and detractions. There's like a distortion from the optics, and the practical geometry gives you like a very concrete, real top-bottom measurement. Like it's feels like you're building, I think, an image with it.
Fantastic. Abdul, in terms of the practical elements of the collaboration, did you sort of hear about the vision and then started to think about how you would work with it, or was it you sort of plan this together?
I like to think that we planned it together, but there's also, when I found out that we were working together, there's a lot of research into what MOMO, what Dave does. So I was looking at these previous works and thinking how I could respond to it and what elements of his work would mesh neatly into mine, and I'm really happy with what we came up with together.
Yeah, fantastic. Were there any sort of new challenges for you or new techniques that you were employing?
Yeah, this is a project, one of the first ones where I'm not hands-off, but I've taken much more of a design approach. So most of my work was done sitting at a desk in a studio, not even with paint in hand. So that has been a fascinating experience for me, and one which I could get used to, actually. Okay. It's really nice. Yeah.
Fantastic. So did that, when you say hands-off, did it involve just a lot of thinking and planning and drawing?
Yeah, a lot of thinking, planning and drawing. That's exactly it. It's sort of the design component as opposed to production, I guess.
Excellent. And at the time we're recording this, it's all coming together. It's not too far off from being finished.
Yeah, I have another day or two to wrap up the painting, and then the lit sculptural electrical elements getting put together, which is Abdul's layer, that's coming on top. So those elements are at the site, and they're starting to like snap those into place, I think, which is pretty cool.
Excellent.
Have you seen those illuminated and everything? They probably tested them somewhere?
I've seen them tested.
Wow, cool.
But not in person yet. So in the tests in Melbourne, we sent video and images, and they look really fantastic. And over the next few days, we should be able to see some in action.
Yeah, it must be kind of cool to go from your line drawing to then see it like large and like turned up.
It kind of blows my mind, to be honest. Yeah.
Be a cool thing to keep working with, probably.
Definitely. Those types of materials and working like that, and the flexibility of those neons. There's wonderful opportunities in that, I think.
Yeah.
There's clearly a really good rapport between you guys working together. What have you most enjoyed about this collaboration?
Oh, I think David's a wonderful person and wonderful artist. And it's been great to work together and meet new people and working in such different spaces and different parts of the world. Like I'm based in Thailand at the moment, and being able to make these connections is just valuable as an artist to make yourself better at doing what you do, I think.
Yeah, I'm at a place where I'm really excited to collaborate with other artists and just get out there and hear what other people are making and doing and thinking about. So it's a great one for me.
Terrific. Getting a little bit philosophical now. What do you guys believe is the role of art in a built-up environment, and what do you want people to feel when they look at this project?
Let's see.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
This is where you edit for clarity. Yeah. Well, we spent 10 minutes thinking of something good.
Yeah.
My interest in art usually is like with the question portion, not the answer portion. I like that art gives you like a pause to consider something you hadn't before. So I never think, especially in a public space, that I have an answer to bring to people or a message to project onto a place, especially because I'm not even Australian or, have history with that location. So I'm quite happy just to add something that's a conversation point of departure or something like that. And my work is really elemental, so maybe there's a universality to just pure color interacting, rhythm as it's composed from pieces. But I try not to come to anything with much of an opinion to put onto it, especially because it's public. I love hearing how it gets interpreted and just stays open-ended.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like that the work isn't didactic at all. It's not hitting
that's
someone
the
over
word.
the head. Yeah. And something that you said really struck a chord with me, the idea of giving people pause. And the way that I've talked about it before is that I like to embed my work with speed bumps to slow people down in these spaces. And rarely am I working in public spaces like this, but say, for example, in an art gallery, I want people to slow down to engage with the work and to, like you said, see things in a way that they wouldn't otherwise necessarily see or consider it in a different way. And in those moments of pause, I hope there's something refreshing in that and rewarding. And then the more time they spend with it, hopefully they can peel back the layers and interpret it in different ways that they have. And I enjoy the fact that it's open to interpretation and it can mean different things to different people.
Yep. And were you both at the workshop today?
We've been doing our own workshops.
Your own workshops? Okay. So tell me a little bit about the workshop you were doing today. You were talking about the colours before.
Yeah, the workshop today just focused on pattern rollers. And then I showed folks what I've done with them. And then we turned around and we made our own and just had a go on a wall to see how they all worked in a couple different colors.
Yep. Were they high school kids or university students?
It was all adults because we were using very sharp knives.
Aha.
Yeah, and no one got cut.
Marvellous.
Fantastic.
How was your workshop today, Abdul?
Oh, I did a workshop yesterday with Bob Hawke College with the Year 9s, a portrait painting workshop, and tomorrow I'll go to Perth Modern and I think work with Year 11s. And high school workshops are always heaps of fun. And the students there were really great. They were a bit hard on themselves because I think they did a really, really good job. But at that age, everyone wants to be a bit of a perfectionist. But the quality of painting that they produced and the things that they developed during the day, I think was really, really impressive.
You wouldn't be far out of high school yourself.
Oh, no. I bet all those kids are young enough to be my kids. So,
Fantastic. No doubt both of you would love to stay in Perth forever, but
Yes.
What's next for both of you? Abdul, you mentioned you're in Thailand at the moment.
I live in Thailand, but Friday I go to Brisbane for an opening at Goma. And then, new different shows, show in Singapore in January and kind of float around at a few different places in the new year.
Excellent.
While I'm over here, a friend is joining me from Italy, and we're going to make just like a little tour to see things. Western Australia, Bali, Philippines, and then come back on the east coast of Australia before we go home. We'll take a month to do this.
That's a heck of a trip in a month.
Yeah, we've done these before where we kind of roam around looking for walls to paint, and it's actually a lot of work, but I love it. And we, in the process, get to talking with everyone that we, come across. Like, it's just real regular people that we're out to meet.
As part of this project, it's part of a wider project that DevelopmentWA is doing around the former Princess Margaret Hospital precinct, which is now called the 1909 precinct at Subi East. What's the legacy that you would like to leave from the works that you're doing there?
I think it'd be really nice to have a hand in this waypoint, this point that's known in the area and known in the state and in the city as our tower or our smoke chimney stack that is that people will come to and meet at. I'm hoping that couples will meet at that point on their way to a date, or a parent will meet their kid there or something like that. I think there's a good opportunity for a really wonderful thing that sticks up 50 meters into the sky. And
a real landmark, yeah.
A landmark. That's the word I've been trying to dance around and find. Yeah, landmark. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. And that is what the title alludes to, that it might be like a meeting point for the city, which has people coming from so many different directions also. Mm-hmm. So many, and a history of that, I suppose. Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time here. I would like to hang around a lot longer, actually. But yeah, I'll be really happy if I've left I participated in, a good-looking artwork that adds that center meeting point type of thing.
Yeah, so the title is Here Together. Is that a title that you both came up with?
Yeah, I think it was a collaborative effort.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're bouncing around similar things. But.
Yeah.
What was the thinking behind the title?
Well, where Subiaco sits too, it's a bit of a nexus point, I think, where you're just coming from Perth, you're going through West Perth and heading towards Subiaco and heading to the western suburbs through that way. But also it's right near the freeway where you're heading into north and you head up Joondalup. You're not necessarily going to see it from the freeway, but it's right there. It's this linking point, and people are coming from all sorts of areas, and the area is also becoming more and more diverse. So the idea of us being here together and enjoying this space together, I think it's a really good way for Perth to move forward, doing it together as opposed to doing it apart.
Yep. And as you've been out in the area and seeing what Development WA is doing around the Subi East area, what are your thoughts?
If I move back to Perth, I'd like to get a place there. I think it looks pretty nice.
Get to collaborate on a house too?
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
Wow, that would be cool. For sure. Yeah, mention that. There's a lot of things I've been thrilled about. The bike lanes, call them bike tracks. There's just a lot of, I think, beautiful infrastructure in the whole city, and a lot of public art actually that I've seen scattered all over the place, which is by far just great looking and outstanding. And I wish where I lived things were to this standard. Actually, I'm going to go home and show everyone these photos and be like, "This is how you do a bike lane."
Yeah. That's a great point, actually. Perth compared to San Francisco, have we really embraced street art a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I don't know even about public art. Yeah, there's sculptural things everywhere. There's painting. I just feel like the public space is considered here in a really generous way, and it's important that there be parks and landscaping and public space that's enjoyable and bikeable and where I am from, things are often just seen from a profit point of view, and if it's not profitable, everyone scoffs at it, and then they just are miserable in their cars on a highway somewhere. So I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of great decision making that I've enjoyed.
When you travel around to places, do you find yourself looking everywhere through an art lens, or do you try and switch off the brain? Oh,
it's always an art lens, yeah. I don't know another way.
Abdul, same for you now?
Like David was saying, the free civic spaces I think is so important, and the fact that Perth has got so many of them. We're right next to Kings Park. There's these beautiful spaces, and to have a space with Here Together, another free civic space and a thoroughfare for people working through the area, I think is really exciting. And I also, walking through, visiting new cities, will always look at it through a visual arts lens. It's really hard not to.
Abdul, Dave, thanks very much for your time. It's been a fascinating chat.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chris. Awesome.